What's up, hoser?
It's a good day to call me a hoser.
Take off, hoser.
Man, I missed the Christmas song.
Take off!
And a beer.
They found the face down in his waffles, maple syrup dripping from his fake roll.
All right, everybody, welcome out to the Lager Room. It is Wednesday, October 7th, 2020. Jersey Johnny coming at you. With me, as always, is none other than Mr. Beer Samurai. How's it going, Mr. Samurai?
What's up, eh?
Are we still on that?
Well, I still got some more deep in the glass, so yeah.
So take off, hoser.
Oh, yeah, there we go.
Folks, today is Canadian Beer Day. And if you were listening to or watching the Facebook Live video a little while ago, actually, when you're listening to this, could be yesterday or the day before, depending on when you're listening to this.
You'll never know.
You'll never know. Well, actually, if you look at the times, you could probably figure it out. But we had poured a couple of beers, and the one was poured by Mr. Samurai himself. He poured a Maudit from Unibrew. Dave, why don't we jump right into it? Dave, why don't you tell us about that beer? It was a beautiful pour.
Yes, we did the almost the classic Liz pour. Again, that's a shout out to the RI craft beer community listeners. It's a thing up here. Not as big of a thing as coffee milk, but it's still a thing.
There you go.
But this one, you got this beautiful amber color to it. So this is a double Belgian. It's a dark double Belgian. And being Belgian, they did use the Belgian yeast in it, so you're getting all kinds of wonderful appley esters in it to go along with the malts. The malts, I don't know. I couldn't tell you which malts they use. They probably use Carapils if they're gonna do a Belgian style, right? Am I wrong there?
It sounds about right. Yeah.
Sounds about right. But they almost play like the Vienna malts in this. So it's malty, yeasty, with those esters. Just maybe a slight bit of phenol in there with a little touch of pepper. It's got a nice balance to it. Still got a thin coating of foam on it, and hardly a little bit of lacing, but that's about it. But it's 8%, so the fact that it's holding any head at 8%, I'm really enjoying.
Very nice, very nice. It looked delicious when you poured it. I've had Maudit before, as I'm sure a number of our listeners have. It's such a good beer.
Is your name a drinking name?
Is my name a drinking name?
There's another shout out to Coop right there. That's his joke.
There you go.
If you go ahead and message us if you get the joke, we'll give you your nerd medal.
There you go. And also thank you for following us on Instagram today.
So now let's go into the source beer that you were drinking.
Yes.
All we knew was straw color, and then you could go on for 3 minutes alone right then and there. So you must be enjoying it.
It's very good. It's very tasty. It's Ein Proset from Source Brewing in beautiful Colts Neck, New Jersey. As any of you that have listened to these podcasts before know, I drink a lot of Source. And no surprise here, this is very tasty. They already did a Marzen a couple of weeks ago. And now they released another Oktoberfest, just an Oktoberfest lager, they're calling it. Their tasting notes are malty, balanced, and crisp. And it is malty, balanced, crisp. It's not your standard. Anybody out there looking for a Marzen? It's not your standard amber Marzen. It's more of a straw color, more on the Helles lager side of Marzens. But it definitely has a nice malt body to it. It's got a little bit of bread. It drinks as if it was a little bit of a darker beer.
Even with the straw color, huh?
Even with the straw color, there's definitely a lot of malt characteristics in there. It's really balanced by the hops. There's plenty of noble hops in this, but it's the really mild. Balance is nice, but it's the malt really does still shine through. It's a nice malt sweetness, but again, like I said, it's a lighter color. It's not as deep in color, or for that matter, as beefy and malty and toasty. If you remember the tasting notes that the Farm Fest Marzen had.
Right.
So, but again, very good. Pours a slightly off-white head. It's almost white. It's just super slightly off-white. Barely any head retention whatsoever.
Okay.
And no lacing at all. But this beer shouldn't be in your glass long enough to worry about lacing anyway. So.
There you go.
Very good. Very tasty. Cheers to Phil and Jeremy and everybody at Source. This is another tasty brew.
Well, as I sit here and we talk about Oktoberfest, as you know, I was forced inside by the weather, and there is now sleet coming in from under the door.
Sleet. It's sleeting there.
Sleeting. It is sleeting here. We got hail. Maybe it's not sleet. I would say more that it's hail.
Okay, so basically you're telling me that there is a wicked thunderstorm out there.
It's a wicked pisser.
That's a wicked pisser. Based on the fact that the Twister almost picked you up and tossed you into the parking lot, I'm going to go ahead and say that it is a wicked piss up there right now.
Oh, man, this one, I mean, we need the rain, but this is a little ridiculous. So
It's just so ridiculous.
They're ridiculous. So at any rate, so Canadian Beer Day, it was started by actually, I wish I knew the name of the organization. So it wasn't one brewery. All the breweries got together and celebrate this, to celebrate not just the impact that beer, but also the industry around beer, bars, restaurants and such, liquor stores, the impact they've had on Canadian culture. And let's face it, Canadians love their beer.
Oh, yes, they most certainly do.
I remember I worked with this one gentleman where I work now, and he was in Canada. He used to be Canadian Army. And I did ask him if the first rule of order was, if they were attacked, to fall back and protect all breweries. And he did confirm that that is the case in the Canadian Army.
Is that right?
That's what he told me. I can only go by what he told me, and he was in the military. So you got to trust him, right?
Oh, you got to. So anyway, you were drinking a Maudit from
Yes.
from Unibrew.
Oh, that's long gone. Long gone.
Long gone. I'm just saying that Unibrew is they're pretty much at this point made the move to being a macro brewery, because they just brew so much of it. But the beer is phenomenal. Maudit is one of my favorites, as well as Le Fin du Monde.
Don de Deux,
Yeah,
FNR.
which Le Fin du Monde is that translates to the end of the world.
As we know it. No.
It's La Fin du Monde as we know it.
From what I'm hearing outside, it might be the end of the world, as
There you go.
Rhode Island knows it.
This is crazy. But one of my, I got to say, Unibrew, as incredible as a brewery as it is, which it rates up there. It's a damn close second to my favorite Canadian brewery and my favorite Canadian brewery. Dubbels, absolutely.
I had the pleasure of just over a year ago sitting in that brewery.
That is great. Yes, you were up there.
Without a mask on.
What was that like? I forget.
Oh, it was a beautiful thing. And afterwards, I believe it was after that, I went and got a fried bologna sandwich.
Oh, I love fried bologna sandwiches.
It's, oh my God. So
Did I say
how,
that?
yeah, you did. So you know how Taylor pork roll, it's a thing in Jersey as a breakfast meat, right?
Of course, right, yeah.
Fried bologna is a breakfast meat in Montreal.
Absolutely.
As it should be.
As it should be. Although I do have to say, growing up in North Jersey, Taylor ham, pork roll, whatever you want to call it, Taylor pork roll, as you said, was definitely for breakfast. Fried bologna was 3 o'clock in the morning. It was a nightcap.
Yes.
Absolutely. So, Duduchiel, what an amazing brewery. Just one incredible beer after another. And my favorite, definitely, still to this day. And it was the first Duduchiel I've ever had, and it's definitely still tops the list of Duduchiel, was Pêche Mortelle.
Pêche Mortelle. I had a bad bottle of it once, but that is a rare thing. Few and far between. I had to have it again, and at the brewery, it was absolutely fantastic.
The first time I had Duduchiel Pêche Mortelle, it was actually not even a bottle. It was on tap. I had it on tap.
Lucky man.
At Spite & Dival in Williamsburg, Brooklyn.
And we know how much you love that place, as I love that place.
That is an amazing bar. Anybody listening, if you've never been to Spite & Dival, which is on Metropolitan Avenue in the Williamsburg section of Brooklyn, go. Don't even ask why. Just go. Just go.
Yeah, just go. And I will give you one hint if you do go. Read every single blackboard they have up there.
And there's many. You will stand there for 15 minutes reading everything, but do that before you order your first beer. In fact, you know what? You can order something. They have 6 taps, and everything else is bottles. Look at the 6 taps, order one of them, And then while you're drinking that beer, look at the blackboards.
And I still guarantee you'll miss something.
You probably will.
Just saying.
As small as it is inside, and very, it's hard to describe the inside of Spite and Dubbel, but you should love it. I do. But on a nice day, go out back. Just a beautiful beer garden out back. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And that is
always a lot of fun.
That is depending on whether or not, how many people are in there and you can get in there and what the percentages. And if I do remember correctly reading the news the other day, at the moment, Williamsburg is on lockdown.
Oh, that's a shame.
Yeah, it is. So revisit this, write this down, make it a mental note, make it a note on your paper, note it somewhere. Once you can
put it right in your phone.
Put it right in your phone. Once you can get there, go there. Just go. And there's plenty other activities beer-wise to do in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, but make that your first. Make that your focal point.
Yeah, you don't want to. Yeah, if you make it your first, you may not make it to the others.
That wouldn't be a bad thing. You can go another day. There is the next day.
It's like going into Manhattan and starting at Auger as well.
Yeah, you don't want to do that.
No.
You do. Well, no, you want to do that, but you don't want to do that. You don't want to start at Auger as well at noon. Well, you can't because they open at 4. But you want to you want to start. Well, if you can start at noon if they open at 4, that would be a good thing. You do want to do that, but
yeah, just sit on the stoop and drink, and sit there and wait on a friend.
Mm-hmm.
That's only if you're down the road.
That's down the block. That's down the other side. Yeah, right. Just not waiting on a lady, just a friend. So, what else can we talk about for Canadian Beer Day, other than just enjoy Canadian beers? And of course, anybody's listening to this right now, Canadian Beer Day has passed, but it doesn't have to be something you only do once a year. Canadian Beer Day can be any day. Go out and enjoy Canadian beers because a lot of Canadian craft beers are just absolutely amazing. There's plenty others than just Unibrew and Duduchiel. And I'm not talking about going out and getting a 6-pack of Labatt's Blue or Moosehead or something. Go out and pick up some good Canadian craft beer. Dave, anything else on Canadian Craft Beer Day?
When they finally let us back in, get your butts to Montreal. Tour the breweries there. They've got some great breweries. For some reason, I am blanking on some of the names. Maybe next week I'll get back to you on some of those names and which ones are my favorites. But Montreal is a great beer city. Amazing breweries, amazing bars.
What about McLaughlin?
Which one?
McLaughlin.
Didn't make it to that one.
Didn't?
No, I did not.
They have a pretty tasty red ale. I have had that.
I think they were outside of my range when I was walking around. I wound up walking everywhere there. I even climbed the mountain.
Nice. Yes, you did. I remember that.
And I don't know if you remember, I posted it up on there on one of the light posts near the top of the mountain. It was covered in decals. One of the decals on that light post was Rick Coffee.
Really? Was it? And you didn't put it there?
I did not put it there. So I'm looking forward to getting back to Jersey to get some Rick Coffee, man. That was a surprise. It's always nice to see something familiar when you're in another country.
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
When you're far enough away from something and you see that there, it's lovely. It's not lovely. It's exciting. It's exciting because somebody,
not lovely. We'll stick with lovely.
Well, lovely.
I
it's
like
lovely.
That.
It is lovely. It is lovely. But somebody else, either somebody there came to, or went to where you are. If you will, and brought it back with them, or somebody else from by you went up there as well. So,
Yeah.
Either way, fun. Anyway, there's a lot of other breweries. Once again, you got Wild Rose out in Calgary, Vancouver Island Brewery. There's an overabundance of very, very, very tasty Canadian craft beer.
And a very nice way to get there is to drive to Vermont on your way up, right?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And speaking of that, when I drink my other beer, that is where my stretch will be, and I'll get to that in a minute. But why don't you kick off our second round of beers with your beer, Dave?
So Jersey Johnny and I are going to do what they told you initially not to do in Ghostbusters. We're going to cross the stream. So he did the teaser with a Oktoberfest kind of beer, and I started off with the Canadian, so he's going to do a stretch into the Canadian when he gets to it. But I'm going to go on the Oktoberfest thing here. And if you're watching the teaser, you saw I was watching a Shades On shirt. I was wearing a Shades On shirt. Beautiful blue color. Shades On, they're down they're right outside of URI, University of Rhode Island. And I have here their Keller beer. And we're going to make the sound here. And considering where I'm sitting, that was a beautiful echo. We're going to get this poured. And, well, you know what? We're going to stick with this this theme of straw-colored beers here, John.
Very nice.
It's a little darker than straw. We're getting a fantastic, rich, densely bubbled head out of it, too. Little on the cream side, the head color. And I'm drinking it out of my Rhode Island Brewers Guild glass. We will get into that on another episode as how I came about this glass. So Keller beer, obviously beer means beer. Keller, German for cellar, correct, John?
That is correct.
So, and I don't know if they call them cellar beers because they're aged, because they're not. It is a lager. But maybe that's where they lagered it. They lagered it in the cellar, so maybe that's where it got its name from. But a lot of the Keller beers, to me, I might be wrong, they kind of have a mouthfeel that's a little dusty, like the cellar that I had when I lived in Jackson, New Jersey. So you kind of get this mouthfeel that dries the whole beer out. Starts off with some lovely malts. I don't know if I'm going to go with crack or maybe biscuit on this one. I only did buy one of them. I may have to get more, though. And just like the source beer that you drank earlier, they've not gone overboard on the hops, but they're there to balance it out and give it that floral flavor that is indicative of the noble hops from Germany. So, yeah, liking this one. Cheers to Shades On for this.
Cheers to Shades On.
Or Prost in this case.
Prost. Right? Ein Prosit.
Now, if you ever get a chance, Shades On has food trucks quite often.
They're definitely going to have to be mentioned in our food truck series that we'll do soon.
Yes, we're lining up so much stuff already.
I know. We should do 3 a week if we only had the time.
And they have
we have the beer. We just need the time.
They've scheduled 3 in the next couple of weeks, so they're really upping their game there.
Nice.
It's an interesting area if you go to visit the brewery and you think that you're in a landscape supply yard. You're in the right place. Because
go ahead.
Well, they're right next to a landscape supply company, so
it's almost the same sort of feeling the first time I went to Ravenous. You know, the original location of Ravenous. It was driving up and down in an alley, going back along like Sears shed looking construction, and couldn't find this place, and it didn't even seem like it was there. And once at one point, finally looked over to the left as I was driving back out and saw this door with these sticky letters on them from Home Depot. It spelled out Ravenous. And
well, if it was on your left, you were driving the wrong direction.
Well, I was driving back out. No, I had already come in the back, and I was turning around and driving back out.
So no, I'm saying if you're going back out and it was on your left, you were going the wrong way.
Okay. Well, I was up and down that same aisle, so if I was going the wrong way, I was going the wrong way. So I just pulled over into a spot and parked, and said to the lovely Jessica that was with me, one and done. And she said, sounds good. And we walked inside, and sure enough, 2 hours later, I walked out because it was amazing. Once you got inside, you didn't even realize what was happening outside. It was a totally different world.
Yeah, from the outside, the place looks like a murder shack, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Well, and they're not there anymore anyway. So
nope, they have since moved. They've moved. They were right on the border of Woonsocket and I'm sorry, I'm saying it wrong. Woonsocket.
Woonsocket, Cumberland, right?
And Cumberland, and now they're on the other end of Cumberland, closer to the Lincoln border.
Right.
The one thing that has remained the same is that they're right near a Jay's Deli.
Yes.
So, Jay's Deli probably serves the biggest. They would call them grinders. We would call them either hoagies or subs.
Hoagie, sub, grinders. That's all.
Yeah, possibly in Rhode Island, they might be the biggest. But as we would call it in New Jersey, a regular.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's a regular. Yeah, I need 2 regulars, depending on how hungry I am. Yeah, if I need a snack, I'll get a regular. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, yeah, right. So, but still a good deli. But the brewery, I need to get up there, and we'll need to feature a few of their beers in future episodes.
Yes, definitely want to do that. Speaking of beer, let me open mine. Folks, I'm going to stretch the Canadian theme
A little bit, by a few miles.
Just by a few miles, folks. I'm going to drink a beer from Vermont. Now, I know Vermont is not in Canada, although some parts of northern Vermont.
So don't send letters.
No. Some parts of northern Vermont may seem like they're in Canada, but Vermont is actually in the United States.
Well, that's because the northern reaches of Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine, you'll find French predominant.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, this is why I'm stretching it. This is why I'm using a Vermont beer to stretch the Canadian theme. And also, it's not just Vermont. I'm going to be drinking a Long Trail beer. Long Trail Brewing is in Vermont and has been for many years. And I'm going to be drinking their Harvest Ale.
What's in that?
Harvest Ale, it's a brown ale, and there is Vermont maple syrup in it. And because there's maple syrup in it, Vermont and the maple both help me stretch this beer to Canada.
The maple leaf is on their flag.
Maple leaf is on their flag, and the Toronto hockey team too. So
the Maple Leafs.
The Maple Leafs. Yes. All right. So I'm gonna open the beer. So let's make the sound.
Let's hear it.
And it's a bottle too. It's not a can.
Ooh. There's.
How was that? All right. So let me pour this. I will be pouring it.
Got some glugging going on there. I like the glugging.
A little bit of glugging. Folks, this beer pours brown. It's a brown ale. It pours brown. I mean, plain and simple.
That's a surprise.
Imagine that. Lovely tan head. Thick, surprisingly thick. Didn't think it was going to be too thin, but it's thicker than I thought it would be. It's holding up pretty well. Let's take a sip, shall we?
Holding up. Oh, and you say that, how long have you had it?
Well, let's put it this way. You heard me pouring the beer, right?
Oh, you mean the head's holding up very well?
The head's holding up. No, the beer is fresh. The beer I just got. Well, I don't know how fresh it is. Depends on when the store got it. But
right.
I just bought it about a week ago. So great aroma. I'm getting malty. I'm getting malty maple.
But how did the maple render? Because I know a lot of brewers will put maple in their brew kettles, and they'll have the heat too high on it, and they'll just burn the hell out of the maple syrup, and you just get an awful flavor out of it.
No, there's no burnt notes. It's more malt than maple. Definitely more malt than maple, but there's definitely a sweetness to the malt, and it definitely brings your nose around to the maple side of things, if you will.
Nice.
So here we go. So that was the aroma, or the nose feel, for some of you out there that like to use that word.
Nose feel, same. Hashtag it. Exactly.
All right, let's take a sip. Here we go. That's nice. It is pretty special. It's not a super thick brown ale. Not watery either. A little bit to the thick side of watery, if you will, as far as the mouthfeel goes. But there's definitely a lot of roast, more roast than bread. Teeny little bit of coffee and chocolate. Very slight on the back end of the palate. But there's definitely it's mostly roast and bread. And then toast. There you go. Definitely roast and bread. Again, more roast than bread. So yes, toast. Exactly. Toasty, and it definitely, the maple rounds it out. I mean, it finishes nicely. The maple finishes nicely. It's not super sweet. It's just there. You know it's there. It's not faint, but it's not overpowering. It's just a nice finish to the brown ale.
So you could say that you like this beer.
Yes, I do.
And that's what it's all about.
It's all about the loving the beer. It's all about the beer.
All about the beer.
Today it's all about the beer. And believe me, I wish I could take off to the Great White North right now. As Getty said so eloquently in that Bob and Doug McKenzie video.
You're not going to sing again, are you going to sing?
No, I'm not. Okay. I'm not. No. But as you may or may not know, anybody that knows me knows that my favorite band is indeed Rush, and they are from Canada. So that being said, Canada is a mystical, magical place.
They sent us Bieber.
Yeah, you know what? You always got to say something to ruin with it.
But I love
Buzzkill.
My week up there. Actually, I've been up there a couple of times. Love it, and that just proves that they're smarter than we are. They sent him to us.
You fun sucker, you. All right. So, you go anywhere this weekend? Anywhere interesting this past weekend?
Did drive around quite a bit. I did pick up some brews at Proclamation.
Did you?
And I really miss being in there. I miss the video games. I miss the whole feel. I miss the light bright logo that they had.
I know.
The chandeliers that look like the question mark boxes from Mario Brothers.
Exactly. You know what? I knew you went to Proclamation, and I knew the beers you got at Proclamation. You know why I knew that?
How did you know?
Because you sent me pictures when you were at Proclamation.
Imagine that. And that was to make you jealous.
You totally made me jelly.
Well, because one of the beers is probably John's favorite style of beer.
Why don't you tell them?
Sour IPA.
Lovely. Great beer.
So I might be drinking that one next week.
Yeah, I think we are going to do sours next week, and we're going to do sours and Halloween themed beers.
Yes. I challenged you last week to find. I gave you 2 weeks to find a Halloween themed beer. I hope you've risen to that.
I think I have. I think I have just the appropriate one. I'm going to let it go, and I will surprise you next week with it.
Say nothing. I will say nothing about what I have, though. If you follow my Untapped, you've already seen it.
Well, yeah. So, however, I have not checked into mine. So, yeah. I will surprise you with it next week.
Well, even if you did check into it, I may not have seen it, because the problem with having your name and Untapped begin with the word beer.
True.
Everyone sends you friend requests.
That's true. You have a very large feed. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. So if I go into my feed, chances are, unless I go into it about within half an hour of you drinking the beer, I'm not going to see it.
Gotcha.
It's a bit nuts.
So if you just happen to be on Untapped when I check in, you see it. Other than that, you really don't. Unless you go into my profile.
Unless I go into your profile, and I'm really not that curious. You know I love you, but probably not that much.
No, I know. I don't go to yours either unless I see it on the feed.
So now you said something earlier. I want to circle back to this. You were talking about how long the beer may have possibly been sitting on the shelf. Leads to a question. What was your favorite shelf turd? And when I say shelf turd, we need to define this a little bit. Shelf turd is not necessarily a bad thing. Sometimes things get left on the shelf. They get pushed to the back, and sometimes you come across something, and if it's an IPA, forget it. It's not going to be any good. But sometimes things could be sat there, forgotten, and then you just come across them and open them up, and they're just a thing of wonder. So, putting you on the spot here, can you think of your favorite shelf turd?
I definitely can tell you my favorite shelf turd, absolutely. And I use the term loosely, shelf turd, if you will. There's a brewery in New Jersey. It's one of the older breweries in New Jersey. They've been around since 2001. And those of you that know me know that I had at one point an affiliation with them. And that would be Cricket Hill. They used to brew a beer. They don't brew it anymore. They used to brew a beer called Cricket's Nocturne. And it was a Schwartz beer.
Right.
A dark lager. And it was delicious. It was a really, really, really well-brewed beer. It was one of the best beers, to be quite honest with you, that they've ever brewed. And they used to release it in around this time of year, mid to late October. And it was a draft and 22-ounce bottle release. And they, at one point, had decided that they wanted to change the recipe and make it a chocolate stout and put it in 4-pack 12-ounce bottles and draft. And they did so. And it was not, while it was a decent chocolate stout, I won't put it down. I mean, for what it was a decent beer. It wasn't, it was a different beer, and I'm a proponent of, if you're going to change a recipe of something, change the name too. It's not the same beer. You know what I mean?
Correct.
But in any event, and then a couple years after they were doing that, they decided to disband the beer. It fell by the wayside, and they haven't made it since. But years after that, I had been up at a liquor store, a bottle shop, if you will, in Bardonia, New York. a couple miles north on 304.
I love that place.
In Rockland County.
And that is one of the best places to find shelf turds, by the way.
Cable Beverage, folks. It's a couple miles north on 304 in Rockland County from the New Jersey-New York border. Again, I was in there moving. If you go to Cable Beverage, folks, if you're in that area and you go to Cable Beverage, you have to move bottles around because there's stuff behind them that they're prizes, if you will. And behind it, I found 5 bottles of 6-year-old Cricket's Nocturne. And it was, and again, it's not a barrel-aged stout by any means. It's just a Schwartz beer. But I had to buy it. And they had it discounted because it was obviously a 6-year-old Schwartz beer. They had it discounted, a 22-ounce bottle for like $3. So I just took all 5, brought it up to the counter.
Now, as a lager, it stood up?
Absolutely. Anyway, I brought it to the counter, and the gentleman proprietor, if you will, said, "Are you sure you want all 5 of these?" I said, "Absolutely." Handed him the $15, and I was done. But plus whatever else I bought, which was a bunch of other stuff too. But that's besides the point. But yeah, no, they held up. They held up. In fact, they were, I hesitate to say, a little bit better than they were. I mean, they almost aged well as a dark lager. It wasn't an overly high ABV either. If I recall, it was only mid-6s, high 5s, mid-6s, somewhere in there. I'll have to check. But
yeah, it wasn't that. Yeah, I remember it wasn't that big of a beer.
It wasn't a huge beer, but it held up really well, and it tasted delicious. It was amazing. So that's definitely my favorite shelf, quote unquote, shelf turd.
To Rick Reed on that one for crafting it so well that it stood up that long.
Yes. Kudos to Rick Reed. Cheers to Mr. Reed on that one.
Nice. That's funny because one of my favorite shelf turds came from the same place.
Is that right?
Yeah, it was shoved way in back. And nowadays if you go in, they do know what they have.
Oh, they know. They're well aware if it's there.
But sometimes they didn't. And so now they do find them and label them. But I found I think it was a 3-year-old worldwide stout.
Is that right?
So that was not a bad thing at all. But I can't say that was my favorite shelf turd. My favorite shelf turd was something that wound up being undrinkable because it was just a Belgian single, brewed at Weyerbacher.
Okay.
And I found a 6-pack of this particular beer. And it's a beer that today is known as Verboten.
I love Verboten. And some people tell me that I should be forbidden to love Verboten, but
very nice. But do you know why it's called Verboten?
Why was it called Verboten?
I found a 6-pack of that beer in its original name.
And that was?
That beer was originally called Zaten.
Zaten,
which is, I believe it's Flemish for fool, right? So why would Weyerbacher, whose logo is the fool, not brew a beer called Zaten, right?
Of course.
They got a cease and desist from a brewery in Belgium that had a Belgian single pale called Zaten. And from what I understand, they were very, very cool about it. They just, because Weyerbacher offered to go and pull everything off the shelves. And they said, no, that's fine. Just stop. That's all. Just don't do it again.
In other words, leave what you got out there, sell it, but don't make any more.
And I was in a liquor store in Wayne, New Jersey. I don't remember the name of it. It was in the Preakness area. It may have been Preakness Liquors, as a matter of fact. And the back of one of these shelves, there was a 6-pack of Zaten.
Is that right?
I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Dust all over the bottles. I gave one of them away. I forget who I gave it to. I've still got 5. I've got 4 left because I opened one to drink it, and that was a mistake because it had been around at that point at least 2 years, and that style does not particularly age well. The alcohol's too low and everything else is too delicate in it. So not a good idea to open up and drink it. However, it is a really neat piece of history to have.
Absolutely.
So moral of this story, sometimes in some of these places, you got to look around, you got to dig.
Yes, you absolutely do, especially at Cable Beverage. They definitely have some,
Cable beverage.
they definitely have some amazing finds. If you just spend the time and look, you will definitely find crazy good beers.
Cable beverage is like it's like a used bookstore to the beer world.
Absolutely, that's a
You're
perfect.
right.
That is a perfect analogy. I love that. The used bookstore of the craft beer world. I think I should. I think I want to like. I think I want to trademark that and then sell it to them. I think that's a great.
Yeah, that's the only thing I can that I can any kind of analogy that I can make from the only thing that I can think of that can describe them.
Mm-hmm.
And the shell and the space between the shelves is quite thin. So
yes, there's very little room between the shelves. It's packed in there. Those bottles are packed in there. Trust me, they are.
Oh, and if you go, bring your growler with you. They do growler fills,
Yes,
and they usually have some pretty good stuff on their fill line.
Yes, they do. And speaking of Weyerbacher too, we'll get into this too. I'd like to maybe we'll even do a little Weyerbacher night kind of thing. I have a 5-year-old Heresy. I think I just might chill that and pour it one night.
I think I have a 3-year-old Heresy.
Nice.
I gotta check, but I know I had a Heresy in what I call the cellar. There's a couple of cabinets that I've got some older stuff in, and I've got to see if I still have them. I know before I moved up to Rhode Island, I drank down my cellar a bit, so I didn't have to move it.
Well, we all drank down your cellar a bit.
That was a good night, but what I remember of it. But I may have a Heresy sitting in there somewhere. I gotta check.
Give it a check. I'll check mine too. I have a few others too. I know I have a Tiny. I think it's a 4-year-old Tiny. I think it's a 4-year-old Tiny and a 5-year-old Heresy. It could be the opposite.
Is there such thing? I'm not sure if there's such things. Has Tiny been out 4 years?
Oh yeah, no. Tiny's been out for about 6, maybe 7 years. Yeah.
God, time has flown.
Exactly. It's crazy. But yeah, and there's a lot of Weyerbacher. I mean, they're not a big, huge talked about brewery, but they brew some pretty amazing stuff.
I miss Decadence.
Yes, that was a good beer. That was a good.
They
beer.
still do Blasphemy though, right?
They still do Blasphemy. Yes, they do. As far as I know, anyway. As far as I know, we'll check on that too.
So we've got ourselves quite a bit of. We've already crafted probably about another 4 or 5 episodes for ourselves, right?
Yes, we did.
In just this podcast tonight.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Just tonight we did that. We got probably the next month and a half already set. So. And folks, also keep aware. Make sure you subscribe and follow us because in the near future we're going to be bringing some guests on this podcast. And you're going to want to.
Do tell. Oh no, don't tell.
I'm not going to say a word.
Tell me on the side.
I will let you know after the fact. Absolutely.
Because we do have, I do have a little trip coming up.
Yes, you do. And where might that trip be?
Well, to see about that because I need to go and I need to grab myself some boat while I'm on that trip.
Yes,
I just gave away of where I'm going. Well, I did that last episode.
Well, you're going to Nantucket to get on a boat, right? That's where you're going.
Yeah, that's where.
Exactly. All right, folks, we got a lot more in store for you. So you definitely want to maintain your awareness of what's going on our podcasts. And the only way to do that is to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at The Lager Room on all 3. And, of course, check out our website as well, www.lagerroom.com. That's LAGERROOM.com. And, of course, please subscribe to our podcast. You can subscribe to our podcasts on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, on TuneIn, and on Stitcher. And, of course, if you just have a podcast browser, you'll be able to find it anywhere. So you want to definitely download those apps on your phone and subscribe to our podcast or computer for that matter. But definitely pay attention because we got a lot of good stuff in store for you. We got a lot of stuff coming up next week, the week after. Interesting beers coming up for you. We got a lot of guests on the horizon coming up, and it's going to be fun. So definitely stick with us and pay attention.
Absolutely. I think I will.
Absolutely. I certainly hope you will. So. All right, Hoser, take off.
I'm going to take off. Wish it to the Great White North, but I think it's just going to be to my apartment.
Go do that. Put on your toque, and we'll see you later. Enjoy.
All right, bye guys.
Folks, take care. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.
They found him face down in his waffles, maple syrup dripping from his fake rug. Who did he see when he heard who was there? Now it seems that he shit out of luck. This